Whatever type of concrete you are restoring, the substrate should be properly prepared. This means removing broken, rotten, or spalling concrete and any dirt or oils from the surface. Preparation can be done with a handheld hammer, a hammer drill, a grinder with abrasive disc, cup, or wire wheel, a garden hose, a pressure washer, or any combination of these tools. A handheld hammer can be used to remove loose concrete, such as the chips caused by surface spalling on this curb pan, or the broken pieces of concrete in this divot at a joint between a curb and a sidewalk. Access to power tools is not absolutely necessary, but it can help in situations like this one. The concrete in this deck slab is of low compressive strength and subject to rot. A hammer drill with a chisel bit is being used to remove the weak surface layer and expose the intact substrate below. Special care has been taken to make sure that the loose concrete has been removed from the repair area, especially where the feather edge of the mortar will meet the intact surrounding concrete. Be sure to wash the repair area to remove dust and dirt, and use a degreasing agent if there's grease or oil on the surface. Whether you use a clean pail of water with brush, a garden hose, or a pressure washer, be sure to clean the surface before restoration. So, what we do is measure the Fusion-Crete 2 by volume. So, we have different containers here that we might use for measuring it. And I usually have one for measuring liquid and one for measuring dry. So, we'll take so many parts by volume of Fusion-Crete 2 crystals and add it to so many parts by volume of water, depending on which mix design we're using. The dry part of the mix is very basic. I have it here in 2 pails. This pail contains some Portland type 1 and 2 cement. And this pail has some 70 mesh silica in it. Although you can use any grade of silica or regular concrete sand or masonry sand or any combination of those sands depending on what you're going to do. And with deeper repairs you can even add larger aggregate. So there's a great flexibility in mix design here. So again, just to summarize, Fusion-Crete 2 crystals get mixed with water in a container, and then that is the premix, and then the Portland cement and sand are combined. Everything's put into another container and mixed together. That's your repair mortar. And you have flexibility so that you can mix this to cover an amazing array of different types of concrete damage and concrete structures. The following video demonstrates mixing a dry pack repair mortar. This is a basic repair mortar mix design. The premix is 1 part Fusion-Crete 2 crystals to 5 parts water. The dry mix is 1 part Portland type 1 and 2 cement to 2.5 parts masonry sand. Masonry sand is excellent for general repair mortar and very inexpensive when purchased from a gravel supply yard. The premix has already been made by combining 1 part Fusion-Crete 2 crystals with 5 parts water, which is the white liquid in the pail. Fusion-Crete 2 crystals will settle to the bottom of the premix pail, so always stir the premix before using it in a mortar mix or for adding it to a sprayer for priming or finishing. Now the worker will measure the dry components with a shovel. It will be measured in sets of 1 part cement to 2.5 parts sand. As you can see, this mix design is very forgiving in that the measurements don't have to be exact. This pail of mortar will contain 2 sets of 1 part Portland to 2.5 parts sand. Now the worker is going to stir the dry components together. The method of securing the pail shown here is not recommended, so use it at your own risk. Now it's time to add the premix. This is going to be a dry pack mortar, so the premix will be added a little at a time to keep the mortar on the dry side. In order to keep from splattering the newly added premix, the worker slowly and carefully lowers the drill mixing paddle into the pail. Also notice that the mix paddle is square so it can reach into the bottom tight corners of the pail. If the mortar becomes too wet, add more cement and sand as long as you keep the ratio of cement to sand about the same throughout the mix. A dry pack mortar is one that can be packed into a snowball shape and jiggled in the hand without breaking apart. The snowball test shows this mortar is still a little bit too dry. This is also taking into consideration that the air temperature is very high, somewhere in the mid-90s, and very low humidity. Another snowball test shows that the mortar is just slightly dry, so the worker is going to add a very small amount of premix, mix up the mortar, and call it good. Now you can see just how dry this mortar looks. This mortar will be used for a formless repair of a stair face. The pot life of the mortar is about an hour, depending on weather conditions, and the mortar can be retempered by adding more premix any time during that hour.